Welcome to CSS Breakdown, book by book, Season 06, Episode 03. In Norman Lowe's Mastering Modern British History, 4th edition, Chapter 3 delves into a pivotal era where Britain's foreign policy was meticulously crafted by two dominant figures, Lord Castlereagh and George Canning, as they navigated the complex aftermath of the Napoleonic Wars.
That's right. A really fascinating period.
Today, our mission on the deep dive is to unpack this crucial period of British foreign policy, examining the distinct yet foundational approaches of Robert Stewart, Lord Castlereagh, and his successor, George Canning.
Two huge figures, but with quite different styles, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. And the challenge for Britain post-Napoleon was monumental. How do you help redraw the map of Europe, forge new alliances, and manage the rising tide of revolutions and shifting national interests?
It's a massive undertaking. Just imagine trying to put Europe back together after Napoleon basically tore it all up.
We're setting the scene in a post-Napoleonic Europe from 1815 to 1830, a landscape of profound upheaval and brand new diplomatic puzzles.
And when you think about the sheer scale of reorganizing an entire continent after a cataclysm like the Napoleonic Wars, it almost feels overwhelming. How did they even begin to approach something so monumental?
Yeah.
What were the very first challenges they tackled?
Yeah, where do you even start? Well, the immediate task was clear. What to do with a defeated France and how to redraw Europe's borders after Napoleon had drastically, reorganized everything.
A complete reshuffle.
It was a complete reimagining of the political map, and it had to happen quickly.
Absolutely. The process started with the First and Second Treaties of Paris, dealing directly with France in 1814 and 1815. But the real linchpin, the overarching settlement for Europe, was the Congress of Vienna.
Right, October 1814 to June 1815.
This wasn't just a meeting. It was essentially a reboot of the entire continent, a grand attempt to establish a lasting peace.
And at Vienna, you had these titans of European diplomacy, Prince Metternich from Austria, Tsar Alexander I of Russia, Count Hardenberg of Prussia, and, of course, Lord Castlereagh representing Britain.
The big players.
What were the key, often conflicting aims each of these powerful figures brought to the table that made reaching an agreement so challenging?
Well, that's a crucial point. Because while the stated aim was unity, the reality was a constant tug of war. They broadly agreed on penalizing France and compensating the victorious powers, sure.
But the main thing?
The primary goal was to prevent future French aggression and maintain a balance of power, ensuring no single state could dominate again. And they wanted to restore legitimate rulers expelled by Napoleon. They thought that would guarantee stability.
But Castlereagh was worried about being too harsh on France.
He was. Famously stated, "It is not our business to collect trophies, but to try, if we can, to bring the world back to peaceful habits." He got that humiliation wasn't the way forward.
A key lesson there, maybe, compared to later treaties?
Definitely. Meanwhile, you had Prussia and Russia wanting quite a lot of territory, which made others nervous. Austria, for example, feared Russia becoming the new France, the new dominant power.
And Talleyrand, for France, was playing them off each other.
Oh, incredibly shrewdly. Using all those mutual suspicions to protect French interests. It was quite the diplomatic dance.
So despite all those competing interests, the Vienna settlement had some truly remarkable successes. France was reduced to its 1790 frontiers, paid an indemnity, lost colonies.
But crucially, it wasn't embittered. Not like Germany after Versailles,
Right. France even kept Alsace-Lorraine, partly because other states didn't want Prussia getting too strong. That's quite something.
It really is. And Britain, you'll see, emerged with some truly strategic gains. Think crucial naval bases and key trade hubs across the globe, places like the Cape of Good Hope, Malta, Ceylon.
Ah, the building blocks of empire.
Exactly. And a string of Caribbean islands, too. These weren't just random acquisitions. They were vital pieces in building and projecting British influence worldwide. France's neighbors are also strengthened.
Like combining Belgium and Holland.
Yes, the Austrian Netherlands became Belgium, joined with Holland, and Piedmont in northern Italy gained territory. It created stronger buffer states.
All contributing to this balance of power.
Precisely. And the Quadruple Alliance, Britain, Austria, Prussia, Russia, was formed to try and keep things stable. And remarkably, no major European war until the Crimean War, nearly 40 years later.
That's an impressive run of peace for the time, especially after such a tumultuous period. But looking back, the settlement wasn't without its glaring flaws, was it?
Oh, definitely not.
Many historians point out that it largely ignored the rising principle of nationalism. You had Belgians under Dutch rule, Italians under Austrians.
Finns, Norwegians, Poles under foreign governments,
Yes.
all sort of carved up to suit the great powers' interests.
Why did they ignore nationalism? Was it just not seen as important then?
That's a great question. It's crucial to remember that in 1815, nationalism was still a very new concept, really a product of the French Revolution.
Oh, okay.
The statesmen at Vienna, these were mostly aristocrats. They probably saw it as a bit radical, maybe even dangerous, not something to build a stable Europe on.
And it ignored liberalism too, right? Putting autocratic rulers back in charge.
Yes, restoring rulers like the Pope in the Papal States, Ferdinand I in Naples. You can see how this set the stage for future unrest.
So it directly led to problems later on.
Absolutely. Disturbances like the Belgian struggle for independence, revolutions across Italy, people fighting against these imposed arrangements. Nationalism and liberalism weren't going away.
So while the Congress of Vienna certainly ushered in a period of fragile peace, it also, perhaps inadvertently, sowed the seeds for future unrest by essentially sidelining these burgeoning forces.
That were bubbling up across the continent here.
Yet, even as these tensions simmered, the great powers were also trying to build new structures for cooperation. What were the key alliances that emerged from this period to try and secure this new order?
Well, Tsar Alexander. I had this rather grand, almost spiritual idea, the Holy Alliance in 1815, pledging to rule by Christian principles.
And Castlereagh thought.
He famously dismissed it as sublime mysticism and nonsense. Very pragmatic, Castlereagh.
So what was more important, practically speaking?
That would be the Quadruple Alliance, formed in November 1815. This was the core group that had beaten Napoleon, Britain, Austria, Prussia, Russia.
And its aim.
To maintain the Vienna settlement and, crucially, preserve peace through regular meetings, these congresses. This became the Quintuple Alliance in 1818 when France joined.
Which speaks to Castlereagh's aim of bringing France back into the fold. And this brings us right to Lord Castlereagh's foreign policy from 1815 to 1822. This man had immense prestige, an Irish Protestant aristocrat, key figure in defeating Napoleon, conciliator at Vienna, secured those naval gains.
A towering figure.
What was his core philosophy, his driving aim once this new European order was established?
His core philosophy post-Vienna was clear. Preserve peace through continued cooperation among the great powers. He basically envisioned a concert of Europe.
Meaning
major international problems will be solved through regular meetings and agreements, talking things through rather than fighting. But here's where his approach really stood out. He firmly believed in not intervening in the internal affairs of other states.
It's key.
Very key. He flat out refused Tsar Alexander's idea in 1818 to guarantee all existing borders and monarchs across Europe.
He didn't want Britain policing everyone else.
Precisely. He said something like, Britain's role was to be a conciliatory influence, not to head up some combination of courts to keep others in check. He didn't want unnecessary interference in the ordinary affairs of the continent.
And keep bringing France back in as an equal.
Yes. Consistently pushed for that.
So his early policies seemed to bear fruit, reinforcing that cooperative spirit. The Congress of Aix-la-Chapelle in 1818 saw France pay its indemnity, the occupation army leave.
And France joined the alliance, making it the Quintuple Alliance.
And crucially, Castlereagh successfully resisted Tsar Alexander's more interventionist proposals. This must have felt like a win for his non-interventionist stance.
It was a triumph for his approach, absolutely. But that harmony was fragile. The year 1820 brought a wave of liberal revolutions. Spain, Portugal, Naples, Piedmont.
Forcing monarchs to grant constitutions.
Exactly. So this is where that fascinating challenge we talked about at the start really intensifies, isn't it?
Right. How do you keep the peace when the system you just built is being challenged from within?
This becomes Castlereagh's ultimate tightrope walk. At the Congresses of Troppau in 1820 and Laybach in 1821, Metternich and Alexander Eyre were eager to suppress these revolutions.
Seeing them as threats to stability.
Naturally, they wanted the alliance to step in and crush them.
And Castlereagh's response was pivotal, shaking the future of the concert of Europe. He refused to attend these congresses himself, sending only an observer.
Made his stance very clear in his state paper of May 1820. He argued the alliance was never intended as a union for the government of the world.
He felt it wasn't morally right.
Essentially, yes. Not right for the big powers to just force their will on smaller countries. This led to a serious split within the alliance.
Oh.
Well, He rejected the Trapezoid Protocol, which asserted the right to intervene. He sort of allowed Austria to intervene in Naples, but insisted it wasn't in the alliance's name, and he disapproved of their actions in Piedmont.
So drawing lines in the sand.
Trying to, and then the Greek revolt against Turkish rule kicked off, adding another massive complication. More cracks appearing in this fragile system.
This sounds incredibly stressful for him.
It was, as one historian put it, a diplomatic tightrope act, which must have been a nightmare. He was under immense strain.
And unpopular at home, too.
Deeply unpopular, yeah. Partly because his government had quite repressive domestic policies, but also his foreign policy was just misunderstood.
Why misunderstood?
Well, he wasn't a great public speaker. He struggled to explain his quite nuanced positions, so the public often saw him, maybe unfairly, as just propping up foreign dictators.
It's easy to look back at his policies from a distance, but when you consider the immense personal strain Castlereagh was under, the sheer weight of a continent on his shoulders.
It really humanizes the history, doesn't it? Historians often describe his final years as this nightmare of diplomatic juggling and public attacks.
What more do we know about the specific pressures that led to such a tragic end?
Well, reports suggest he was struggling with mental and physical health issues, paranoid perhaps, definitely overworked, compounded by the constant pressure of international crises and that criticism at home.
A stark reminder of the personal cost.
Indeed. Castlereagh eventually committed suicide in August 1822. A really tragic end.
But despite that tragedy, his legacy is profound, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. He's credited with introducing the Congress system, this new idea of international cooperation, of statesmen actually meeting and talking. It was a genuine attempt to manage European affairs through dialogue, not just war.
Castlereagh's tragic end left an undeniable void, but the complexities of post-Napoleonic Europe certainly didn't pause. Stepping into that monumental role was George Canning, who became Foreign Secretary after Castlereagh's death in September 1822.
A very different character.
Right. Canning wasn't radically different from Castlereagh in his fundamental belief that Britain should protect its interests, but his method and style were distinctly different. How did Canning's approach begin to shift the diplomatic landscape?
What's fascinating here is how Canning combined some of Castlereagh's underlying principles with a much more assertive and, frankly, public-facing style.
How so?
Well, Canning believed that bad government did justify change, and if change was needed, like maybe in Greece, it should be managed by the powers most closely involved, not just brutally squashed by the whole alliance.
So more decisive.
Definitely more decisive, willing to actually help revolutionaries, potentially, in places like Greece and Portugal, whereas Castlereagh would likely have just protested diplomatically.
And his main focus?
His overriding concern was always protecting British interests. Preserving the alliance itself wasn't the top priority for him.
Not like Castlereagh.
No.
Yeah. As
his biographer Wendy Hine put it, his policy was based on a careful, even opportunist calculation of what would best preserve peace and promote England's prestige and prosperity.
Opportunist. Interesting choice of word.
Well, he was quite prepared to ditch the alliance if it suited Britain. Famously said, "For Europe, I shall be desirous now and then to read England."
Putting Britain first, very clearly.
And unlike Castlereagh, Canning was good at PR. He took great care to explain his policies to the public, which made him really popular, even if some old guard politicians weren't keen.
So his specific aims were clear. Stop France messing with Spain, keep the Portuguese constitution safe, make sure the Spanish colonies stayed independent for trade.
Yes, trade was huge.
And help the Greeks, but without letting Russia gain too much from it.
A complex set of goals.
He faced an immediate test with Spain, didn't he?
He did. At the Congress of Verona in 1822, Britain's man Wellington found himself totally isolated.
What happened?
The other powers authorized a French army to invade Spain in April 1823 and crush the liberal constitution there.
A setback for Britain, then?
Diplomatically, yes. It showed the limits of Britain's influence within the Congress system when others were set on intervention. But Canning turned it around at home.
How?
His strong anti-French speeches really resonated with the public, boosted his popularity, showed his skill in rallying support.
But he found resounding success elsewhere, particularly in Portugal. He upheld their liberal constitution, fearing French and Spanish invasion.
Right, he didn't just protest. He set a British naval squadron and later 5,000 troops to defend the Portuguese liberals in 1823.
And that went down well.
Immensely popular at home. It really restored British prestige on the continent after the Spain issue, showed Britain was willing to act.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, his success with the Spanish colonies in South America was monumental, truly cementing Britain's position as a global maritime power.
Absolutely huge. Canning feared France might try to reconquer these newly independent states.
Which would be bad for British trade.
Exactly. Britain had built up valuable export markets there. So he openly rejected calling another Congress on the issue, basically said the Congress system was now a waste of time for Britain.
Bold move.
Very. He then warned France point blank that the British fleet would prevent any expedition to reconquer those colonies.
And he even received support from the USA with the Monroe Doctrine in December 1823.
He did, though Canning was a bit wary of American motives and wasn't thrilled about their preference for republics everywhere.
Still a useful alignment.
For sure. And then in 1825, Britain formally recognized Mexico, Colombia, and Argentina as independent republics and signed those crucial trade agreements.
A massive triumph for him, that famous quote.
I called a new world into existence to redress the balance of the old. A bit boastful maybe, but it captured the moment.
It really demonstrated Britain acting effectively and independently, didn't it, outside the Congress system?
It absolutely did. And his involvement in Greece and what came to be known as the Eastern Question was another critical area where Canning left his mark.
Right. Canning also waded into what historians call the Eastern Question. For listeners less familiar, could you quickly paint a picture of what that really entailed, this looming geopolitical chess match over the declining Ottoman Empire?
Absolutely. Imagine a massive, once powerful empire, the Ottomans, slowly weakening. This created a dangerous power vacuum, a real worry for European stability.
And Russia saw an opportunity.
Exactly. Russia was keen to expand its influence southwards, towards the Mediterranean, maybe even grab Constantinople. That was a huge red line for Britain, thinking about trade routes and the balance of power.
So the Eastern Question was...
essentially this complex puzzle. How do the European powers manage or maybe exploit this Ottoman decline without sparking a major war, especially with Britain trying desperately to stop Russia getting too powerful in the region?
Okay, got it. So Canning's motives for intervening in the Greek revolt were complex.
Very. There was genuine sympathy for the Greeks, who were being brutally suppressed by Turkish and Egyptian forces. Public pressure back home was intense, too.
But strategically.
Critically, it was about preempting Russia. If Britain didn't get involved, Russia might dominate the situation and make huge gains. Canning wanted to limit that, keep Turkey just strong enough to act as a buffer against Russia.
And maybe break the Congress system, too.
That might have been part of the calculation, too, yeah. Using this as a chance to sideline Metternich and the interventionist powers.
So he negotiated the Treaty of London in July 1827 with Russia and France to force Greek self-government.
A joint approach, but outside the old alliance framework.
Tragically, Canning died in August 1827, just as things were really heating up.
Yes, before he could see it through. The Battle of Navarino in October 1827, where British and French fleets destroyed the Turkish-Egyptian fleet, effectively secured Greek independence.
Which was officially recognized in 1830.
Indeed. But after Canning's death, things shifted again. Wellington, who became prime minister briefly, actually reversed policy.
Really? How?
He apologized to the Turks for Navarino, withdrew Britain from the alliance with Russia and France over Greece.
Then the consequence.
It inadvertently gave Russia the green light. They declared war on Turkey and gained territory in the Treaty of Adrianople in 1829. So it kind of undermined Canning's wider aim of limiting Russian influence in the end.
But one key outcome of the Greek revolt, from Canning's perspective, was that it unequivocally marked the end of the Congress system as an instrument for crushing revolutions.
Absolutely. You had Russia, Britain, and France acting together against the principles Austria stood for. It signaled the complete breakdown of that post-Vienna unity.
Canning was prepared to break it up for British interests.
He certainly was. And Metternich's reaction to Canning's death, calling him a malevolent meteor, tells you everything you need to know about how disruptive Canning's approach was perceived by the old guard.
So what does this all mean for us, the listener? We've seen how Lord Castlereagh initially sought stability through cooperation and non-intervention, striving to bring the world back to peaceful habits, even when it made him unpopular at home.
A real focus on the collective, on the concert of Europe.
Then George Canning stepped in, sharing some core beliefs, but prioritizing direct British interests and willing to challenge the established order using public opinion, too.
Much more focused on national advantage, prestige, and trade, and willing to act alone or with different partners if needed.
Their leadership profoundly influenced Britain's role as a global power, demonstrating two distinct, yet equally impactful ways to navigate the complex currents of nationalism and liberalism that emerged from the Napoleonic Wars.
It really showcases how personal conviction, political style, and national interest can become intertwined, sometimes quite dramatically, in the highest echelons of foreign policy.
It certainly makes you think. Consider this. How do the perceived successes or failures of a foreign policy often depend as much on the personality and public relations skills of its architect as on the policy's actual outcomes? Something to mull over as you navigate your own complex world.